morning. Thanks everybody for joining us today. This webinar has mostly come due to a recent webinar where we did an online poll, and after tabulating the answers, we basically thought we would address them. Joining in this meeting is Michael Smedley and Dean Oswald, who are going to get asked these same sorts of questions that we found out during the webinar earlier all the time. So we thought we'd actually put something together. Michael will be uncovering how NetSuite can assist you to improve your cash flow position, and Dean will be discussing business continuity. We do have at J-Curve Solutions a couple of very empty offices at the moment in Sydney, Melbourne, Singapore and the Philippines. Those offices house the largest NetSuite partner in the world by customer count, J-Curve Solutions, with over 600 clients. I suppose we could be talking about business continuity from a very personal perspective. That's kind of interesting, Dean, but I won't steal, your thunder. And it probably highlights, that sort of topic of business continuity straight away. On a personal level, my wife and I both are working from home at the moment. I believe everybody at J-Curve Solutions is working at home. My wife, however, works through a VPN. She struggles staying connected to a huge array of different software solutions, and the amount of frustration she goes through is really unfortunate. But once again, Dean, I do feel like I'm stealing your thunder, so I'll let that stop there. My topic is nothing to do with business continuity. We also sell a range of cloud-based technology solutions. There's Rio, which is also great if you've got a team of a field management team or something like that as well. So talk to us about any of your cloud solutions. During in the recent webinar we did, we polled, I think we had over 200 people show up to that one, and we polled them during that webinar. And the three things they come up with during this COVID-19 time was, how do we generate more sales revenue? How do we improve our cash flow? And how do we keep ensuring business continuity? There was a bunch of things that were brought up in that poll, but it was interesting that the ones that they talked about the most are generating sales revenue, cash flow, and business continuity. And I guess knowing that, it's probably the reason why you guys are here as well. So the agenda will sort of go like this. I'll probably start off with talking a bit about revenue and creating that revenue. How do you protect it? How to maximize the revenue you've got currently? How to anticipate and react to, quickly to unforeseen changes. I think the key and one of the really important aspects of NetSuite is that, the way we can use NetSuite to pivot our position and to move forward in a different way when things hit us quickly, right? We're not trapped to one thing. Then we can talk about understanding your cash flow with Michael, improving that cash flow and making, the right financial decisions. And then finally, Dean will kick off and he will talk about business continuity and making your workforce ready for any situation. I think also, and I'm hoping that he talks a bit about, how easy it is, and it is if you're not using the right platform, to get frustrated when you're not working within an office where everything's set up perfectly for you, right? So like I was sort of mentioning my wife there, she's dealing with a lot more frustration than I am, and I get to see that very personal every day. So I'm just going to swap over to my NetSuite account now. Michael, Dean, if you'd like to introduce yourself. Michael, you can start first of all dropping through. That would be great.
Hey guys, thanks for joining. Yeah, look, cash flow came up a lot, in the previous webinar we ran, which is we heard from a bunch of our customers as well as some experts in the industry. So I'm really looking forward to showcasing a bit about what NetSuite can do on the cash flow side.
Dean?
Likewise, yeah. Thanks for joining us, guys. For myself, as Nigel mentioned, I'll be focusing on business continuity and hopefully just sort of showing you one or two things around automation and NetSuite. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. I think the first thing to realize, and something that I've realized very quickly when I'm dealing with a lot of different businesses, is not everyone has been affected the same way. Some businesses, because of their products, have seen increased demand during this period. If you've been lucky enough to sell, personal protection equipment, toilet paper roll, what am I seeing everywhere at the moment again now? Hand sanitizer. If you've been lucky enough to sell any of those three things, you've probably been too busy to talk to us because you're just, taking in orders. but others haven't fared so well. And it really depends on the products and the things, that you've been doing. And those guys that haven't fared so well are also sort of doing the same things as guys that have fared really well. The guys that have fared really well aren't buying a lot of stuff from other people. They're just trying to keep their stocks up and maybe trying to find supplies and so forth. The guys that haven't fared so well are sort of sitting there going, well, what do we do? We haven't got a whole lot of money and this is quite risky for us, So personally, in my world, I had to scrap completely the original sales pipeline that I had. So folks, and I had actually, the reason why I brought up PPE is I had a customer who was doing that, who was looking at NetSuite, and after, the bushfires and then COVID, he was so busy that there was just no way in the world he had time to be talking to me and expecting that. He was just all focused on creating those opportunities and maximizing those opportunities. And then our other guys who just went, look, things are a bit risky right now, so, we've got to stop. So one of the things that I did quickly was I went through my NetSuite thing and I've come up here and I've looked at contacts without sales activity. And this one here on a demo account talks about sales activity within the last week, but I sort of extended that search and I looked at everybody that I hadn't made any contact with over the last sort of year and a half. I've been with J-Curve for about 2.5 years and I just went right through everybody that hasn't done anything. One of the things that I noticed is with a polite introduction and, quickly just by clicking on this 23 contacts without sales activity here, will bring you straight into all these different customers. And from here, you can just click on any of these customers and get the information, right? But, a polite reintroduction, some companies actually thought that it would be a good time to consider our product because, NetSuite, there is a time of implementation, like people could be working for 6 weeks, could be working for, 9 months implementing depending on the solution complexity. But they thought now might be the right time to do it. So I suppose when you're looking at your database of customers, it's who haven't you contacted? Have you reintroduced? Have you sent them a nice polite reintroduction? Have we talked about how we can maybe start building a pipeline? And you will find that some of these guys are using this time differently. Because like I said, everybody's being affected differently with this. So one of the things I also did was start looking at, the things that I'd be looking for if I was a customer. So I created a search and it wasn't very hard. This is all sort of fairly standard in NetSuite. It's just declining sales by customers, right? So by doing that, I've got this customer list and I've looked at their previous 3 months average sales. So for instance, this particular company here was spending on average $6,800, but you can see they've spent nothing within the last 30 days. So they're customers that I started reaching out to as well and finding out what was going on. Could I help them? Maybe it was just I needed to, because I need to sell, they're hurting. Maybe I just need to lower my price a little bit to see if I could get my products back selling through them because some sales is better than none, right? So it was very easy for me to see all those people who were declining sales. I also did the opposite, by the way. I looked at who was increasing their sales. I looked at the products they were buying as well. But very easy for me to create a search of customers and compare what they've been doing previously. And that could have been 18 months worth of sales, or it could have been 30 days worth of sales. So it was very easy for me to do that. I also went out to the customers who were doing well and I asked them what was working for them. And most of them, I think it was actually one of the people in the webinar we talked about where we did we found out what people were looking for. And he was saying that his online sales went through the roof where his retail sales did quite bad. And another guy, one of our other customers, he got a connector from NetSuite to eBay. And he started packaging up his older stock and stock that wasn't moving and packaging up in a big sort of group item and selling that on eBay. And that was a whole new vertical for him to do that, And the eBay connector in the NetSuite, there's a standard connector. It's relatively inexpensive. You can get straight in from eBay to NetSuite, so that information just drives back and forth. So all the customer information is coming through about them, so they stay in your database, and you and your customers have got a new way, or you've got a new way of finding customers out there. Strangely enough, he said he didn't even have to discount his products on eBay. It was just the fact that the perception that eBay was cheaper, people were buying it off eBay. So he was getting rid of a lot of his old stock that way. So I suppose the whole idea of NetSuite being able to quickly open up the world and go, well, you know what? I don't just have to have a retail floor. I can also be looking at online sales. I connect through here. This becomes your source of truth, you know, so the pricing strategies and all that sort of stuff happens straight from here. So there was a couple of ways that really quickly got people sort of up and moving, you know. So others who weren't doing customers, who were more not doing B2C but doing B2B, they just leveraged our customer portal. So we created a customer portal, which is, once again, this is all standard functionality for NetSuite. Everything that I'm talking about here has zero cost. It's standard functionality other than maybe some setup in the connector for eBay. But everything else that we're talking about here, creating these reports, you can do them yourself. You don't need to come to us. Opening up a B2B portal, you can do yourself. You don't need to come to us. So the key to all this is really using and understanding NetSuite and the ability it has so you can pivot quickly. So they set up a B2B portal, which is a standard feature. They just created a NetSuite. They just had the website, put the portal on their website, and then customers can come through and start buying their products off, you know, just off a face of website. So it didn't involve the cost of setting up an e-commerce site. It didn't involve any connectors. It was simply sticking a login for NetSuite onto a website, their own website. So there's just a few of the ways that, you know, people have really leveraged NetSuite to increase the scope or the range of customers that they can find. And I think there's some other things that we can talk, because the eBay thing and all of those types of things, you know, like the websites and the B2B portals, you need to have some pricing strategies around that. So the other good point about NetSuite is if you do have, you know, all these different pricing points, and you all have these different, you know, levels of pricing you want to give your different customers, we are able to come in there into NetSuite. You can go into your individual item, which you can see here. I'm walking into an inventory item now, which is, let's say we're selling MacBooks here. And I'm able to really adjust the pricing very quickly for the different lines of products I've got. So if I want to come down here, you can see I've got all these price levels. Now this base price level could be my eBay price level. You know, the new customers, just imagine that now. It says this is my, you know, B2B website. I've got all these different price levels that I can change, and I can use across the top here. You can see I've got the different quantity breaks and so forth. So I can be very particular with pricing, and that will allow me to maybe get more customers through to buying more stuff. I've just got to be a little bit smarter about the way I'm doing it. The ability to quickly update price across multiple channels in real time is key to knowing and understanding your stock position. And understanding your stock position is key. And like I said, all the things here, besides the connector for eBay, is core to NetSuite functionality. Probably the last thing that I'll talk about before I pass across to Michael is the communication. So if I want to, you know, I've gone back to, you can see I've gone back to this customers who haven't had any sales activity in the last week. If I want to send out an email to these guys, a quick EDM, I'm able to do that. Quick save search, I can send out an EDM. I know if these people have opened that email. If they want to opt out of my emails, it also meets all those things as well for those questions that people are going to ask. And I'm able to get that information out to my customers very quickly. So if I want to send out an EDM on a pricing strategy I'm doing with certain product range, I can find that information out. So I suppose with NetSuite, I'm saying there's lots of different ways you can do it. Just realize, one, importantly, that not everybody's been affected the same. Go back through all your old customers. You might find that some of those guys who aren't thinking about you just need a polite reintroduction, and they might start thinking about you again. That actually physically did work for me. I sold a few deals from doing that recently. That helps. The ability to be able to change pricing on the fly for your different mediums or different outputs, all within NetSuite, so I can come down here and change all these prices to meet those different needs is key as well. And to be able to get all that information out to customers very efficiently, straight from NetSuite as well, is awesome. So, you know, I can send out all those EDMs straight from NetSuite with all my new pricing strategies. I can update my eBay, I can update my online sales, I can have a different retail price for this. I can have B2B stuff, B2C stuff, and all of that working from the one solution and the one source of truth. So I change it here, it changes everywhere. Now, honestly, we went through that pretty quickly because we haven't got a whole lot of time. So I'm going to pass across to Michael now. So Michael, if you would like to, I'll stop sharing my screen and you are more than free to kick off.
Fantastic, thanks Nigel. So the other key priority that we understood from the webinar we ran recently was was improving and maintaining cash flow. As Nigel said before, not all customers are impacted the same, right? So some customers are selling out the door, right? So then they've got to keep managing their receivables and stay on top of all the cash flow they're receiving. Others are struggling a bit more, and they need to be chasing up debtors and chasing up the longer term receivables. So I've jumped into a pretty similar role to what Nigel was in. I'm in your controller role. So for context, this would be obviously a CFO or accountant even, but just an understanding of the financial aspect of the system. So some of the key facets of this that make it really, really helpful for NetSuite customers are things like your live receivables, payables, expenses, and inventory. Like Nigel said, everything on screen here is core. It's none of this is an additional functionality or gated behind additional paywall. And everything in NetSuite is real time, right? So for example, we'll jump right into the receivables. You're easily able to see your receivables for each time period. You can see it's currently set to the end of this month versus last month. At the touch of a button, you can change that and adapt that. You might want to look at quarterly. You want to look at how you're doing this quarter versus pre-COVID quarter. Or you can also change that to half yearly or annually as well. If you jump in, if you just jump into receivables and you can see your AR summary, you're easily able to gate this by time period. So, for example, you might decide you're not going to be chasing up those 60-day creditors as much just because of the current situation. So you're just going to jump straight to the 90-day creditors and see what's open there as well. You're reminded, say for example, you're a CFO, you're not handling the day-to-day stuff like your accountant would be. You're easily able to set up your reminders to handle things. For example, as a CFO, you might not care about every $500 transaction floating around, right? So you can set up your reminders to see only the large outstanding account balances. So you could see, for example, any customer that owes you over 10 grand, then you'll be able to load that up so it comes up into your reminder screen. You're easily able to load out these and see what's there. Another aspect of the system that a lot of our customers find really useful for managing their cash flow is the weekly cash projection. You're easily able to see what's due and what's already been received on the receivable side, as well as the payable side as well. So this is all real time, as I've mentioned. As soon as something's processed, it's going to appear on your screen, so you've got instant access to that information. As we know, at this time, it's a pretty volatile time period to be in business, right? So it's really important to have that live and available for your information. Going back to the theme of what we were saying before, some customers are struggling to get stock out the door. Some can't keep enough in stock. So the inventory report is really useful here to see what's in stock and how you're comparing to last month. For example, you might want to be holding more stock. Some of our customers in discussions have been talking about how they're trying to hoard stock and hold as much as they can, right? So in that case, they want to be holding twice as much or 50% more stock in their warehouse than they were the previous month, whereas other customers are having trouble making sales and are just trying to get the inventory out the door. In that case, they might want to be seeing what's my cost basis, what can I sell it at, do I just sell it at a cent over the dollar and just get it out the door, right? So we take a look further down the financials, you've got access to information like your gross margin, what is dollar value and percentage, and you can obviously drill that down in the NetSuite system to the individual line item as well. Jumping forward as well, forecasting is pretty important for customers. You want to know what's coming in, what's going to be coming ahead. So obviously you can see what's already booked in your receivables, but through NetSuite you've got a range of reports. If I just hover over here, you can see just how many reports we have in the system. There's a number of forecasting reports as well and sales reports as well, but the one I want to jump in is just a fairly simple and standard report. We use this all internally at J-Curve. We've just configured it a little bit, but you're easily able to take a look at your pipeline from a sales perspective. And you can see here that we've identified this in stages. You can configure this out. You can edit the weightings, the relevance, but you can see things like in discussion, at the proposal stage, negotiation, and then finally purchasing stage. And at the far right, you can see the total by category, and you can also introduce weighted totals as well. So you might want to adjust these totals during a time like COVID because of increased uncertainty. Finally, if I jump back in as well, there's a number of other income and cash flow reports as well on screen, like your income by period trend. You can see this in a range of different formats. I'm fairly standard, I'm a graph guy, but some people might prefer some other formats or line graph to make that a little bit more interesting. And like all other NetSuite reports, you can take a look at this from a period, a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, or a yearly basis, depending on how you want to consume the information, right? So the key, I guess the key takeaway here from a cash flow is that NetSuite's got hundreds of reports straight out of the box. That's all available to the end customer, but you can also configure these to take in the information, analyze the information that you've got in a number of different ways, and depending on how you, as the end user, be it CFO, the accountant, financial controller, how you as the end user want to see the information, which is pretty critical in terms of trying to understand what your cash flow is live, particularly at a time like this. I think I'll hand over to Dean now, who's going to handle business continuity. Dean, I'm going to stop sharing my screen if you want to take over.
Perfect, yeah. Okay, so as the guys mentioned, my messaging is around business continuity and really the ability to do more without the need for additional headcount due to the level of automation in NetSuite. As we've found out here at J-Curve, we can enable your entire team to work seamlessly, whether it be from home or anywhere from that matter. So with NetSuite being the first and always has been a true cloud-based ERP, so that means anywhere, any device, all that's really needed is connectivity. And it also boasts an impressive 99.5% uptime. So an example of that is probably ourselves. So as Michael mentioned, we use NetSuite internally, but that is actually across 3 countries. And what we've experienced is a seamless experience throughout our time from working from home, which has obviously been key. So in just a second, I'll show a bit of automation, but just to touch on what we're looking at the moment is a role-based platform with real state-of-the-art dashboard functionality and the flexibility to create or essentially have a blended dashboard across many roles. So you can see here at the moment I'm in as a sales role here, but what I might want to look at is various other roles. And just like I was saying, you could essentially blend some of your KPIs with other members of your team's KPIs, which is very, very easy to do. Okay, so yeah, what we're looking at is personalized, but this can include all our to-dos, our reminders, my KPIs, our targets, and also what we're doing is forecasting and giving insight into what lies ahead. And really, as the guys demonstrated, I'm just one click away from any of the information that's important to me in my role. Okay, so just in its simplest form, an example of that, if we just look for a customer, just choose any customer. And then with a real-time CRM, it really does ensure that everybody's on the same page, no matter where they are, or like we've seen recently, working from home. So we've just gone to this customer record here, and if I just go down to communication, you'll see that I've got a few tabs that are options to me. But in this instance, just as an example, I'll choose just to create a task here. Okay, so we've got a standard task form, and we could say call back. I could either assign this to any number of employees that are set up in NetSuite, but just to show you this appearing as part of my dashboard, we'll keep it here as we're signed in as this chap. I can put time on this. I can also put allocate time to it, can set reminders. We can put further messaging. And if I go ahead and just sort of save that, and then just maybe pop back to my dashboard and go to tasks. we can see there that that task is now obviously being created. And like I say, we've done that for my own dashboard, but we could have assigned that to anybody. They could have got an alert or essentially an email to prompt them to deal with that task. Now, that's not just tasks, that's like I say, across various activities. It might be approvals, it could be calendar updates, it could be emails, events, all sorts of functionality. It doesn't differ from being the same automated function. Okay, so really each user is synced and working from the same source of data and in real time, as the guys mentioned. So regardless of department or which part of the company that they work in. So this setup and this information really does provide the information I or the user needs to make true informed decisions. So hopefully that was helpful. With that, I'll pass back to Nigel.
Awesome. No, look, I think, you know, like it probably all starts with what you were talking about with business continuity, guys. So, you know, the ability for us to pick up, and I mean, this literally happened at Jayco Solutions one day and we were working from home the next. And if I compare that to some other things that I've seen before, you know, it's just really, really important that we can see that Jayco or NetSuite will allow you to keep that continuity going. It will allow you to just keep moving so that sales functions and so that, you know, financial functions and all that sort of stuff can keep moving without any problems. You know, everybody can be working off the same thing. One of the things Dean didn't show there was the calendar. That task would come through to a calendar and all those types of things. So I think that is awesome. The other thing is that we can be multi-subsidiary. You can have a whole bunch of subsidiaries working here. So if you've got a complex business, that's fine. All of these businesses can roll up into the one. So I might just let people ask a few questions. I really thank you for joining us. If there's any questions, that would be awesome. Let us know and we'll get to them. This really was designed to be a snapshot of some of the things that we can do to help. If there is any further questions you have, or if you want to, you know, further discuss NetSuite for your business, please get in contact with us. You can see here, you can book your discovery sessions at jaycosolutions.com/ERP, and we'll be right there with you.